I'm going out and come back in, see if I can improve my volume.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to our home page while we're doing that and getting settled. I hope you all are doing well. Let's just do a couple of announcements for those who are able to join us. And uh-oh, something happened here. Let me do a couple of announcements here. I lost my screen. All right. I hope you can see my screen there. I'm sharing our class page, and let's just talk a little bit about today, this week, should I say. And I think this session is going to be really interesting. I left my book downstairs, but let's talk about, thank you so much for last week, for those who are on the line today, and those who are going to be watching a little bit later. Thank you so much for doing your week one introduction. I know it's always like, why does she want us to do that? But the school wants to know if a student is active. So sometimes we have students that sign up for a class and they could be in the class, but they're never active. We don't know what happens to them, like they fall off the face of the earth or something. And so just because the student is in the class, they want to see now if the student is active. So thank you for doing that introduction form. And we had a pretty good report from our class, so that meant that everybody was active and, can't get dropped. All right, thank you. So this week, we're in week 2. Time just flies. We are in week 2. This week, we are going to talk about worship, instrumental worship. I do want to kind of go back a little bit to some of the key things from last week, but we're going to talk about how instruments played a part into worship. Let me go back to our discussion, make sure there was a problem with discussion post. Y'all always make sure that you follow the syllabus. And so for week 2, you're reading in, let me get my book. You're reading in Susan White's book, focuses on pages 47 to 49. I'm gonna get my book. And always pay attention to the reading number so you don't read any more than what you have to, because I recognize some of you are in the New Testament course, so I try to balance the reading out. So 47 through 49 is what we're going to focus on today, which focused on instruments, and we'll talk about that in a second. But your discussion post for this week talks about what role or does the instruments play in enhancing worship experiences today? So think about, in current times, what would an instrument do in today's worship settings? What types of instruments have you seen be used? And if you haven't been, you can always pull up an example on YouTube or something of a worship experience. What type of instruments may be used in current times? And then what biblical evidence can you provide that speaks to instruments being used in worship in the Bible? So you may have to do a little bit of digging. And also in this chapter, in chapter 2, and what we're going to talk about in pages 47 through 49, Miss Susan White, in her book, An Instrumental Music, on page 47, she talks about different types of instruments like trumpets and flutes. And it wasn't flute, it was something else I just read here. That were, it was flute. Flutes and trumpets that were used in worship or festivals in the Old Testament. So I don't want to give all the answers away. All right, but I think that you're going to enjoy that. All right, so today we are going to talk about instrumental music, and I have an example. I have a couple examples that we're going to look at today. So if you would, and good afternoon, Tamika. I want to pull up our PowerPoint. Y'all give me 1 second. And let me know if you have any questions while I'm transitioning, okay? I'm gonna pull up our lesson.
Why do we only have the African American Christian worship book only, but we don't have the other book for this class?
Okay. And who was that? Was that who was just talking?
Me.
Okay. Elena. I always feel like I'm messing up your name. Don't worry. I had somebody else that inboxed me, so we are going to figure out. Hello. All right, no problem, Miss Hood. We're going to try to figure out how we can work that. If I can scan, I'm gonna see if I can scan 47, 48, and 49 after class, okay? And y'all gonna see all my notes and stuff on it. It's kind of ugly, but that'll help you with the reading for those people whose book hadn't come in yet, okay? So let me make a note because y'all, I'll forget. So I'm gonna scan, that shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna scan pages 47, 48, and 49. All right, and that should help you out. Also, for those people, if your book didn't come yet, make sure that you pay attention to these PowerPoints because I take the notes straight from the book, straight from the reading, and that'll help you answer some of the things as well, okay? All right.
All right.
I got
Professor Barry?
You're muted.
Students, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I was hearing an echo. Let's go back. Let me know if you can see my PowerPoint.
Yes, we can hear you. We can see it.
Awesome. Get ready to work. Everybody do this. I hear a little bit of feedback. If your microphone is open, just mute yourself real quick. We're going to see if that problem goes away. And then when we, if you want to chat a little bit later, you just open it up. So today we're going to talk about instrumental music in worship. And we're going to take a look back and then we'll kind of come forward and see what happened. But if you have your book, I am coming from pages 47, 48, and 49 for our lesson. So the Old Testament, remember, going back, so in the Christian Bible, we have two parts to the Bible. You have the Old Testament and the New Testament. So Old Testament is Jewish culture. This is the precursor of Jewish culture, and it really gives us a good foundation of what happened before Jesus. So remember, Old Testament is times before Jesus. New Testament is, Jesus is born and beyond. So the Old Testament does show worship. It shows the people having some type of get-togethers and Jewish festivals and things like that, that do point to evidence of them using instruments, of using some type of musical instruments. And then a little bit later, we're going to go to the book of Numbers, chapter 10, but it talks about them using instruments. It talks about them using trumpets in their Jewish festivals, using flutes. Also down in First Chronicles, let me see if I can go to that. It mentions that there were 88 musicians. Imagine that. That's a nice band, isn't it? Or orchestra, not band. That's an orchestra that were needed to accompany temple worship. And then I want you notice I put some things in caps. So temple worship is different from synagogue worship. So that would be synagogue worship would be in the New Testament. And there was speculation that their worship didn't use many instruments. Okay. And it's thought that early Christians in the New Testament, and when we say in the New Testament, this was like during the time of Jesus and after Jesus's death and resurrection. They thought that during that time of the early Christians that they probably didn't use a lot of instruments much at that time. But there is some evidence to instruments being used in a type of worship setting in our last book of the Bible, and that last book is called Revelation. But real quick, let me pause out of this, and I want to go to 1 Chronicles 24. And I'm having a little.
You're muted again.
Now I'm hitting escape. I don't know how I'm muting myself. Thank you so much for that. I'm having some problems with this PowerPoint. It freezes up on me. All right, so real quick, I'm going to pull up 1 Chronicles 24, 6 through 7. And if you have this on your own, hey there, Ramona, good to see you. If you have this in your own Bible, you could pull this up, and I'm pull it up on the screen, so no worries. We're going to go to 1 Chronicle. Just going to look at it on the screen. And we're going to go to chapter 24, 6 and 7. So here I come. I'm going to pull it on the screen. Hopefully I won't mute myself anymore. All right. Okay, students, I'm coming back to you now. I'm sorry. Hold on, y'all. I'm having another issue. Let me come back. For some reason, when I go back and forth, I'm freezing up. So I think I need to go back to my lesson. Can you guys see me?
We can see you.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. I think I better not do too many things. I think I have too many things open. And then when I go to that other slide, it maybe my computer, y'all, it just freezes all the way up. So I'm going to keep moving. And let's talk about how things have begun to change. Let me know if I'm moving too fast. So remember on the previous slide, and I'm muted again.
No, you're not.
Okay.
You're moving too fast.
I'm
No.
moving too fast. Okay. I'm telling you this. I'm not a fan of Microsoft Teams, everybody. Let me know if anything happens. It may also be computers. All right, so I'll start again. Thank you, everyone. As we saw on the previous slide, there is evidence of music, of instruments being used in the Jewish culture of worship. So now we're going to like fast forward and see how things begin to change. And so instrumental music started to begin to appear in what we call Christian worship around the mid-2nd century. So remember on the previous slide, I said that in New Testament times, in the early Christian times, it was thought that they probably didn't use a lot of instruments at that particular time. So problems start to arise because they think that church people started to think that, ooh, they're bringing in instruments, and those instruments could be confused with pagan music or pagan rituals and things like that. So there was a big conflict about bringing music in. This was like the second, third century. And they were thought that, oh, this music could sound like, if it's Christian music, it could sound like the pagan music, which should have been different from the church music. And so some early church leaders disagreed, and they discouraged music in the church. And then they start to bring it back in the 7th century. So I want you to just see this back and forthness. If you all were with me, some of my students here were with me for the Christian history course. And one of the things that we see in history, period, is disagreements. Disagreements in leadership, whether it's a government or something like that. Somebody always got an opinion, right? And their opinion will or their feelings or something like that will affect maybe a group of people, a nation, or something like that. But even in Christian history, we saw that there would be like group leaders, church leaders. They would disagree about something. They would shut something down. Then it would come back. And then a couple of years later, it would be shut down. So you're going to see the same thing happen with music. All right. So I'm going to take you on a little timeline here. We see music happening in the Christian in like Christian worship around the mid 2nd century, that after Jesus is crucified and he ascends into heaven, right? And so we see music come in. All right, then we got people say, wait a minute, this sounds like the world music, this sounds like the pagan people, take it out. And then around the 7th century, what do we have again? Bring it back. So we like on a seesaw here with music. All right, I'm hoping this link is going to work for us, because y'all got to hear. I've got 2 examples of music that you got to hear today. All right, so as we start to move around the 700s, we're going to take a move up to Europe. Let's go up to Europe. And I want you to see this picture on the right. Can everybody see that picture on the right? That is a pipe
Yes.
organ. Super. All right. That is a pipe organ. And one of the most popular instrument in Christian worship at that time, and even moving into the 15, 16, and 1700s, was the organ. More importantly, the pipe organ. Okay. And so it was very popular because of its sound. And if you never heard it, I'm going to play it for you in just a second. It has a beautiful range of 5 octaves. It has a beautiful tone. But the thing about this very popular instrument is that it was meant to accompany the singing of Christian hymns. And in the Christian church, many of them would have a hymnal, and some churches still stick with hymns today. But the pipe organ was played especially for these melodic, slower types of songs. So if you give me 1 second, we got to see this one. Let's see if we can get an example of a pipe organ. While I'm transitioning, has anybody ever heard a pipe organ before? Not a regular organ.
Yes.
Yes, I've heard pipe.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Love it.
Yes.
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 Oh, well, wonderful.
There was something that used to come on every Sunday, and it was a woman that played it, and was local
Yes.
here somewhere in Georgia. I can't remember,
Oh,
but
the joy
it was what?
of music.
Yeah.
Lady-
I don't remember, but every Sunday, and she actually played the pipe organ. It was just awesome.
Can you all hear that?
Yes.
I'm gonna just take it down a little bit. I'm gonna keep talking. Does anybody play the piano or organ in our class?
Piano.
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
No.
Okay. I don't play anything. I need to play something, right? Wonderful, wonderful.
Before, but not like for practice or anything like that.
Very good. Very good.
Just for fun.
Just for fun. Well, that's good.
Listening now, I used to play very well. And I put the piano down for the clarinet, so.
Wonderful. And so with I wanted you to hear this is another hymn. And these pipe organs, and a lot of you said you've heard them. Let me ask you this question. I'm gonna turn this down, okay? I'm gonna play it softly. Some of you said that you heard a pipe organ. Oh, this is a great catch right here. Where did you see this pipe organ?
I saw the pipe organ at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston.
I've
North
seen it.
Carolina. I went there.
Documentaries, and other forms of media,
Okay.
like the Hunchback of Notre Dame and whatnot. But I've seen that instrument before.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Dane College Chapel.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Hold on one second. I know we had Miss Opal was talking, and then I'm gonna come back to Miss Smith and Ruben. And Opal, can you go ahead?
Oh, I said I saw it and heard it at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina. That's where those people were killed.
Yes.
But I went to that church for a Mother's Day service after the shooting too. I went sightseeing and then we had service there. So
Wow.
it was awesome.
Ruben and Elena, tell me where you saw yours.
Okay. Well, the first time I saw a pipe organ or really experienced it was at the chapel at the Gilbert Chapel at Payne College. They have a pipe organ.
Yes. I've been there. You are so right. I think I have some pictures of it. You are right.
And I do have a sidebar about the pipe organ that I like to share.
Go ahead.
There's a piece called Coda and Fugue in D minor. I believe it was written by Mozart. And the purpose of that piece was to demonstrate the power of the pipe organ. And if you hear it, you'll probably recognize it from some horror movies. But it really shows the complete range of that instrument and how powerful it is.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And okay, so I'm hearing it was two church locations. Go ahead.
I've seen it in forms of media like documentaries, film shows, and seen it in some books. I just like in very old churches in Europe somewhere. I just haven't seen it in person, but
sure.
I heard and first seen them in documentaries and whatnot.
Awesome. And so what I hear, I'm going to switch back to our lesson. So what I've been hearing us saying is the location. Here we go. The location of where we see these pipe organs, as you see how big it is and how large this sound is, it has to be in a church or auditorium or whatever that is huge enough to carry the sound, the acoustics of the pipe organ. So it is meant for a very large sanctuary or auditorium of that sort. Very good. So let's go back. It's beautiful, isn't it? And so the ornate, look at just how, I don't know how long it would take to make such a thing. All right. So now we heard the wonderful sound of the pipe organ. Keep that in your mind. And now remember I said that we're on a seesaw. So in the 700s, we had pipe organs, and it's accompanying worship. It accompanies the hymns. But now we got another fight. Okay. Remember I told y'all we go up and down in history. Here's another fight. So around the 16th century, the Puritans of the English church, they disagree with the organs. They're like, no, that's too worldly, get it out. And they signed a petition to get rid of organs. So, around 1644, the legislation is passed, and guess what? They got to get all the organs out of the churches. And not did they just move them out and wrap them up somewhere, but they destroyed them because they're thinking at the time, I told y'all we go back and forth in history, but the thinking was that it was worldly, that it was devilish, it was bad, right? So remember, here comes the seesaw. So in about 1660, different minds, different thinking. The ban was lifted, and what happens? The organs come back. And I always wonder, like, Lord, y'all destroyed all of those wonderful organs that somebody took the time to make, and now y'all had to make new ones. So around 1660-ish, organs are coming back. Organ building is coming back, and organs are going back into the church. But there's another but, right? Here's another but. Here we go on the seesaw. There are those who remember from the Christian history course. We have Christianity, which is the big umbrella. But there will be different Christians that will worship different ways. And so the Mennonite Christians continue their ban on the instruments. And they say, well, okay, if y'all want to have organs, if you want the piano, we don't want it. We're still worshiping under the umbrella of Christianity, but they just don't want any instruments. And so the Mennonite church, let me just pause real quick. Anybody ever heard of that word, Mennonite?
I have before.
Yes.
Just not very often.
That's right.
Have we heard of the word Mennonite?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Very good. You know anything about them?
They are very similar to the Amish, but one of the differences between the Amish and the Mennonites is that the Mennonites believe and have no problem with using technology to accomplish their means. The other thing I would say about the Mennonites is if you ever get a chance to go to one of their restaurants, go. They can cook.
They can cook, all right. And Amish have great markets too. But very good, very good. I got to check out one of the restaurants. Now we're going to take a listen to their music. It's absolutely beautiful. If you haven't listened to it, I'm going to play it for you in just a second. But I want you to look up at the top before I switch this slide. Now, this is a more modern organ. Somebody mute your microphone, getting a little bit of feedback. And this is a more modern organ that you see above. Now, this is what you would see. I don't play the organ or piano, but this is what you would see nowadays in a church that would have an organ. And it's just a beautiful sound. Not as powerful as that pipe organ that we saw in the walls, but this organ is such a beautiful sound as well. Well, such a beautiful sound, but the Mennonites still don't want it. And they said, well, no, we are going to use our voices and sing a cappella. So I'm going to pull this up for you real quick. And hold on, everybody. It seems like when I want to click on something, it goes slow. So what I'm going to do is, let me stop sharing. I'll come back to you. I think I have too many things open. I want you to listen to, hold on. All right, I'm coming back. You've got to listen to this music. It's a cappella, no instruments. They just use their voice. And the name of the song is Have You Been to Jesus? Let me make sure I'm sharing my audio. Hold on. Include computer sound. Have you been to Jesus? And let's listen to the whole thing. Remember, no music. I mean, no instruments.
Have you entered Jesus for the cleansing power? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in His grace this hour? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb, of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless, are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you walking daily by the Savior's side? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Do you rest each moment in the crucified? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb, of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless, are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Isn't that beautiful? Now, they don't have
Yes.
instruments, but they have perfected a cappella singing. And not just, not just this, not just the Mennonite church, because, other churches use it as well, even a cappella, in other churches. But I just wanted you to see that. Yes, say it again.
Catholic.
Yes, very good, very good. You are right. Yeah.
So Professor Perry, one of the things I noticed in listening to them, I did not hear anybody give a pitch. It just started without giving a pitch, and I thought that was a little bit different. And they came in on time, on pitch, but I didn't hear a pitch.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. They really did.
They perfected it, and you did not miss the music in
No,
that song.
you did not miss any instrument. And it's just, as we study this, it's not a right or wrong thing, right? But it is just so beautiful to see the different ways that instrumental music has changed, and even how certain groups, even if they said, no, we don't want it, but it's so interesting as we study this to see how they have made their worship, enhancing by using their voices. All right, so let's get to this part, and then we're going to open this up for a little discussion. I want to see what you guys think. So remember, I said we're on a seesaw in history, even now, right? With the things that we go through, somebody likes this and somebody doesn't like this. Then we get another leader that does this because the other leader did that. At the end of the 18th century, we start to see different instruments, and people are forming bands. And so town bands become really popular in the area, so they're like, oh, there's this band is playing this weekend, let's go and listen to them. Or they're playing at the festival, the fair, at the circus. Well, the town bands became very popular, and they would play in the rear of the church, in the back. Now, let me just ask you a quick question before we talk about what's on the screen here. Notice I said, or in your reading, not what I said, notice in the reading, it said that the town bands played in the where? In the rear or in the back of the church. Where do musicians play now in modern day churches?
Front, behind the pulpit, generally.
Right, okay, in the front. Some may play behind the pulpit, some play up front on the sides or something. But to the most part, are we agreeing that we haven't seen our musicians, the pianist or your organist or your the guitarist or anybody like that, or if you have flutes or whatever in your church, most of us are probably can agree that all of our musicians play up front. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That was a resounding yes for most of us, or you know, even if you observed, if you don't attend, but that's okay. But we haven't, even if we visited somewhere, I've never noticed anyone playing in the back of the church. So keep that in the back of your mind. All right. Now let's go back. However, over time, here we go again with our seesaw. Even the bands are becoming a problem. Here we go again. More of the instruments are becoming barred from the church. So let's look at these different examples I have here. Around 1903, so right after the 1900s, you have drums, any type of electric instrument, pianos, they were barred. They're like, get them out. What's the reason why? So I have some reasons why. The church leaders thought two things: that these musicians are going to be too indulged with themselves. Hold that right there. We're going to come back to that. This is where we're going to discuss. Some other church leaders thought that some instruments were a little bit more worldly, and I put that in quotes because that could have lots of different meanings. Because others thought, they said, well, the piano or the drum or guitar or something, a flute, oh, that's what they play out there, but we don't play that in here. Okay. All right. I'm going to come back to this last point here. So I want to, let's open up a little discussion on what we have here in the blue box, the gray box, and our pink box here. Let's talk about this. Some church leaders, this is early 1900s, and this trend even moves into the Black church. And when we'll start talking about in our other book, it starts to move into the Black church around the 1940s, 1950s, where some instruments were seen as worldly, and drums and things of that sort were barred. And you see, we really start to see instruments such as guitars, drums, keyboards, and things come back into the church, and coming back into the Black church, or come into the Black church around the late 1970s, 1980s, because it was a big thing not to have it. It was like, no way, you're not gonna play no drum in here. All right, let me stop talking. I want to hear from my students. What do you think about that? What's on your mind with these instruments? You know, some people be saying it's just an instrument. What you thinking today?
It plays an important and impactful role in the church.
Yes. Keep going, Miss Smith.
Because it affects how people worship and how the church utilize the music.
Good point. It does. Music adds. So I want you to think. There's a little feedback. Somebody hits the microphone. I'm not sure what's going on with this Microsoft Teams, but think about watching a movie, your favorite movie, and it had no score or it had no music to it. You know, there's always some type of music thing. I love The Color Purple. And in The Color Purple, you have, you know, all the little songs, the background music. You know, I still remember the music. Remember when Celie was walking up the long road? You know, it just enhances the story. So music is very important. Go ahead. Any other students want to chime in there? What you thinking about these instruments being
I
barred?
remember seeing this series about the female Poe.
Okay.
It didn't have any scores or music.
Yeah.
Or that much music.
All right. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you so much.
Music is always impactful. If you are familiar with the movie Jaws,
Oh, yes.
you hear the music and your mind sees the shark. You don't even have to be in the movie theater, or if you just hear the music. Music and the instruments that are used really touch your soul. And I think as time moves on, we can tell if a song actually has true instruments in it, or if they were, I don't want to say contrived, but if a person sat down to a machine and all the instruments were on the machine, it's almost as if you grew up during a time of records.
Yes.
You can tell the difference between record and digital.
Oh, yes. Good point. Thank you. Good job. Keep going, students. Any other comments there about music being barred and then they bringing it back?
Well,
does Sister Act count?
I'm not sure, Ms. Smith, what you're talking about. Explain what you mean.
That movie, Sister Act.
Sister Act. Okay, I apologize. Well, yeah, it's a movie, yes, and it did include a lot of music. Yes, it really enhanced the storyline. Okay, yeah, a lot of movies will use music to tell the story. Okay, Ruben, somebody mute your microphone.
Okay, well, one of the things I have noticed is that the type of instrumentation that is used in the church can impact a person's perception that church is about. For example, I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, Macedonian Baptist Church, very conservative. The only instruments that older people were interested in were piano and organ. They didn't want us young folks bringing in our clarinets, our trumpet. God forbid you bringing in the drums. That was taboo in our church. So long story short, my family fell away from that church over some other issues, and I was unchurched for a while. But when I started going back to church, the first church that I was going to, first thing I saw was some drums, and I'm like, Lord have mercy. What are these folks gonna be about up in here? Yeah. Because I was not used to seeing drum sets used as part of a lead guitar, on the organ, piano, everything. And it's very Bible based. So the type of instruments and the type of way the music is presented, I think does impact the way some people are going to view that church.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true. If you walk in and you see a church with no instrument, you're like, and then if you see a whole band, you're wondering, oh wow, you're wondering different things. Yeah, good point. What do you all think about the quote up here, or the reasoning up here in the gray box that said church leaders thought musicians would become self-indulged? That's why they told them to get out with that instrument.
I can understand, because some people like to vainly boast about their talent, or how talented they are, like some of these celebrities are. But on the other hand, many musicians are not like that.
Good point. Yeah, like all of them are not. But the leaders were scared that, oh my goodness, if we let the guitarist play his guitar, his or her guitar, or his or her drums, their gift, I don't want to say some people, not everybody, as Ms. Smith said, will, how do I say this nicely, y'all?
Overshadow the minister.
Okay.
It would become the star instead of the worship.
Become the star.
Yeah. We focus on them and not on worship.
Right.
Which does happen sometimes today.
You're right. They may play that guitar, or they just playing their piano. It's like, okay, we done sang this song 30 times, but Sometimes it happens. And so the leaders were concerned that, ooh, they might get too indulged in themselves and not in the worship. Okay. Do you think that any instruments, is there a particular instrument that is worldly, that's for out there, but not in worship? What do you think about that quote that they had there in the blue box?
I find it odd.
Yeah, I can accept all of any instrument, really. I think all of them can be used spiritually. I don't think necessarily. If I had to think of one that could go both ways in church, would be the saxophone.
Oh,
But I don't think it's a worldly instrument. I just think, if you wanted to look at it that way, you could. But I can accept all of them. I think they all bring, something that add to the service, to the
Yeah.
worship.
And I think it's how you play it. There, and in Christian worship, I know we're getting off here a little bit, but there are different songs, there are different tempos. Some are upbeat, some are more mellow, some might be a hymn, some might be contemporary. So it might be in all how the person plays the instrument to enhance the worship.
Well, when we speak of saxophone music, some of my experiences are that I like gospel jazz. I have a gospel jazz web page on Facebook. When I'm searching for music, most of what I find is saxophone music. But also on the tip of gospel jazz, using saxophones and worship, I know some of you may be familiar with Angela Christie. If you ever watch the King celebration, she's the saxophonist.
Yeah.
I once heard her speaking. She said some of her techniques came from when she was growing up playing the saxophone in church, trying to mimic the preacher with her saxophone.
Wow, that's good.
And she does. And come to think of it, it really does. Child music does kind of mimic the cadence of a preacher.
Uh-huh.
I love all forms of music. There's not a genre of music that I really don't like. I have preferences, but I like all the instruments, and the saxophone is a beautiful instrument. I just said if I thought that I would consider one, it may be that one, but
all of them have a part to
all
play.
beautiful, played in the right way. Yeah, at the right. As you stated, the tempo and all of that, and depending on the type of song, hymn or gospel or praise and worship kind of thing.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so as we come, hey, Tamika, I saw Tamika is working, but she's sending her messages in the chat. She says also, I didn't want to overlook you, Tamika. She said the music can also help with ushering in the spirit. And I gave you a little click because that's a high five right there.
That is so true.
Yeah. Your Tamika.
It can also usher out the devil or any evil spirit.
Yes.
Sometimes I'd rather hear the instrument than the singing, the actual voices.
Yeah, right.
I mean, really.
We're not dogging out nobody's voice because I could not.
No, we're not talking about it, but I'm just saying I just like sometimes the music can bring in the spirit to me in a way that maybe the lyrics do not.
Yes, I'm with you 100%. And as we continue to learn about Christian worship, I just want to hang right here before we leave is that, okay, in the Old Testament, you find individuals, like we said, instruments were used. So you find individuals, going back to what Ms. Smith said about driving the devil out, or driving a spirit out, right? So you had individuals like David and Saul, and he would play a harp. So if you guys get a chance, I know you got a lot going on this summer with this class and your other classes. You can look up things like harps, flutes were played in the Bibles.
Recorders.
Oh, well, yeah, it may have been a different term at that time. Like a wind instrument. That's what, you know what I'm saying? Like and of course, y'all, they didn't have the material
Yes.
like we would. Yeah. Going back to that, Saul, there's a passage where King Saul was not having a good day. So he was just being vexed by this bad spirit. And David played, y'all got to listen to harp music. That's what I want you to do. That's your sidebar homework from me tonight. I want you to go to YouTube or whatever before you go to bed tonight. And sometimes they have like hymns or something you could put on, but whatever it is, I want you to play yourself some harp music before you go to bed tonight. It will just send you to La La Land. And it is so soothing. And that's what it did to the king. It soothed him. But there is evidence. I say all that as we wrap up. There is evidence, y'all, in the Old Testament as well as New. You see a lot more in the Old of them dancing and using instruments, using what we would call in today's time like a tambourine, but it was had a different timbre. Lyres, look up that, lyres. And so they had no problems with making instruments, dancing, and this was a part of their worship. And so now I say all that as we transition, I'm about to head out here, as we transition, and later on in the summer when we talk about African Americans, y'all, we use our music, we would use our hands, we would use our voices. So as we start.
Hello.
Yes.
I remember watching this documentary series about how African Americans worship their religion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you just analyzed how they worship back then versus now, it's very different, especially in the southern states. And
Yes,
I remember seeing this one part in a church called Goodbye Uncle Tom.
yes.
For mature audiences. It took place during the antebellum South before the Civil War. There was this there were some slaves and they were like around this cage thing, separated from the whites. They were either standing or sitting on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And also there was another scene that the slaves were worshiping to the Lord and such. And there was this white slave mistress over watching what they're doing.
Okay. Right. And so we're going to learn a little bit more about that as we get into the second half of this summer in our African American worship book. Melva Costin talks more about that, so I don't want to give a precursor. I'm going to pause right here, y'all. It's 1:56. We had a wonderful session, so I don't want to hold you too long. I know some of you are at work. Remember to go back to week 2 and do your discussion if you haven't done it already. I see some of you have. And remember, we start on Mondays and we end on Sunday nights. So your work will be due on Sunday night. So this week you just have, of course, today, you came today. If not, you're watching. Hey, those two are watching, and you're going to post for your discussion. And for those people who don't have the book yet, I made myself a note. I'll scan pages 47 through 49 for you in Foundation Susan White's book. All right, everybody, y'all okay?
Reverend Barrett,
Yes.
week 2 is due Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I got it right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Work due Sunday. What Sunday date? The 11th? Sunday. No, it's not.
The
Sunday 13th.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
13. All right. All right. So we'll pick up next week. I'm excited. I hope you're learning something.